Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so very much for coming to the Neptune Senior Center today. We are here to present to you a very exciting topic because it's a topic that is a $10 billion industry fraud for all the fraudsters. We are going to talk to you today about crimes against the elderly and elder fraud. By way of introduction, I would like to introduce Shanice Owens from the Asbury Park Police Department for her bio and background. Shanice?
Thank you, Debbie. Hello again, everyone. So my name is Officer Shanice Wesley with the Asbury Park Police Department. I've been proudly serving the Asbury Park Police Department for over 20 years. I'm currently in the Community Relations Unit, also worked in the schools as a school resource officer, as well as been on patrol investigating criminal crimes. I'm trained in crisis intervention, community policing, youth development and behavior, and de-escalation, amongst other training that I have gotten over the years. In addition to my law enforcement experience, I hold a bachelor's degree in social work and a master's degree in forensic psychology, and I specialize in police and public safety. I love to serve the citizens of Asbury Park, and one other way that I do that is by mentoring children through the PAL, which is Police Athletic League program, where we mentor youth as young as 8 years old. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shanice. And next, we would like to introduce to you Detective Owen Rosenthal.
Not as eloquent a speaker as my colleagues here. I apologize in advance. My name is Owen Rosenthal. I'm a detective at the Neptune Township Police Department. I've worked there since 2017. Before that, I had 1 year at the Berkeley Heights Police Department in Union County. During my time as a police officer at Neptune Township, I started off in patrol. From there, I did a short stint in the street crimes unit and ended up for the last 4 years, from 2020 to 2024, on loan as a deputized task force officer with the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration. I've been a detective for a little over a year now. I started January 1st, 2024. And since that time, I've unfortunately become well-versed in fraud, which we'll get into shortly.
Thank you very much, Owen. Let's give Owen a nice round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, I spent my first career as a special agent and as a supervisory special agent with the Internal Revenue Service Criminal Investigation Division. After retirement, I then went to Ocean First Bank, where I was a senior vice president and the director of security and compliance. After my role there, I came back to the profession that I have such passion for, which is law enforcement. And as I just told you, I am a detective in the Financial Crimes Unit and Public Corruption Unit at Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office. So why are we here today, all of us experiencing all this financial crime in our background, in our profession that we see every day? Elder fraud is on the rise. It is one of the top 4 crimes out there because elder fraud crimes encompass a myriad of crimes. So why financially exploit the elderly, the retired, the 55 and over population? The fraudsters think and believe that we have accumulated resources. We have savings, possibly a pension, Social Security, a nest egg, maybe you own properties, insurance. They also feel that this venue is less likely to report. Why? Because you may not know who to report it to. Do you go to the police? Do you go to the federal law enforcement? You want to remain independent. My mother is 86. She's in a 55 and older. She knows I've worked financial crimes for decades. Did she tell me when she was getting notified and contacted on Facebook? We shut that right down. Do you know why she didn't want to tell us? She didn't want her children to think that she could not live successfully on her own, that maybe she was making the wrong decision on the computer. That's her lifeline, the computer. She didn't want that taken away. And the fraudsters know that. Elder fraud is a $10 billion industry. It's huge. Statistically, more likely to fall victim to a scam or an online theft than a home invasion. Because why? We're usually home, and we're usually on the computer and social media, and that's where a lot of this originates from. Seniors lose most of their money to scammers. So what is financial exploitation? Well, it occurs when a person misuses or takes assets of an adult for his or own personal benefit. It occurs without that potential victim's knowledge or the consent of that particular potential victim, depriving them of vital financial resources for their personal needs. They take your money. Normally, at that point in life, you're not replenishing those funds that you used to be able to do perhaps throughout your career. This is an unknown person like a scammer, or maybe a known person like a family or a trusted friend, a caregiver. Usually, it's someone that the potential victim trusts very much and sees on a regular basis, which is how that trust builds up. Statistically, let's talk about Asbury and Neptune statistics as it relates to elder fraud. Shanice?
Thank you. So I want to thank the Asbury Park Senior Center, as well as other senior centers around the town who brought some seniors here today. I see Ms. Karen in the building. Thank you, Ms. Karen. I appreciate it. So some statistics about Asbury Park that's been reported. So we're mainly going to look at the 50, 60, and 70 years old. So in 2022, and about 14 people reported. Now remember, this is reported. Some people do not report, just like the detective said. It could be many reasons, but one of the reasons they don't know who to report it to. So in 2022, it was about 14 reported 50-year-olds, 15 reported 60-year-olds, and 12 reported 70-year-olds. And for a total overall of 88 people who reported it in 2022. Now, when you look at 2023, you have, it declined a bit. So you had 7 50 reported 50-year-olds, and you had 11 60-year-olds who reported, and then you had about 5 70-year-olds who reported it in 2023, with a total number of 63 overall between the ages of 20 and 70. Now, if you look at 2024, it has declined just a little bit more in the area of 50 years old, but it also increased back up just a bit with 13 in your 60-year-olds and your 70-year-olds increased just a little bit. So a total of 55 in the year 2024. So what we're seeing is a decline, but we also know that some people do not report it, so these numbers can be a bit skewed.
Thank you, Shanice. And statistics with Neptune Township. Owen?
Thank you. Point of this graph, I know it's a little hard to see. I apologize. It didn't transfer very well to a TV screen, but this is a breakdown of fraud between 2022 and 2024 by month. And I don't know if you guys are able to tell in the back, but essentially there is no commonality. There's a few peaks, but they seem to be anomalies. You know, people generally say the most popular time of year for fraud is the holidays, Christmas, gift cards are flying off the shelves, things like that. In Neptune, I can only speak for Neptune, it doesn't seem to be that way. We haven't had, for example, in 2022, the high month was March. We had 21 incidents reported in March. 2023, it was August with 24 incidents, and then in 2024, it was December with 16. So there's not a whole lot of consistency with when it's reported, like people generally say in the media. A couple of slides that are not on here, I just wanted to touch on really quick. Oh, this one is on here. So the average age of the fraud victims in Neptune, again, this is only for Neptune, they're not what people think. Some people think that, you know, only people who are not tech savvy, people who may be 80 years and above are going to be most susceptible to fraud, but that's not the case. In Neptune, again, the common age is between 52 and 54 years old. So it really affects everybody. And just a couple stats that are not on here. So in 2022, we had 184 incidents of fraud reported in Neptune. In 2023, it was down to 168, and in 2024, it was down to 144. So, and it's consistent with Asbury Park. It's been a downward trend, slowly, but it is downward. And I would like to think that it's because fraud has unfortunately become so pervasive in our culture that people are more aware of it than ever, and people are taking preventative actions within their community, their families, and everything else. And I apologize, this is the last one, and again, this is not on the TV, but just our average fraud dollar amount in Neptune. It's generally, the highest number is 149 incidents were reported between $1 and $10,000. The second is between $1 and $100 at 111 incidents. The highest dollar amount in that total time span actually occurred, it's an active investigation that happened in 2023, $760,000. So these dollar amounts get high very quickly. I'll turn it back over to Debbie.
Thank you, Owen. Today we're going to talk to you about the more common financial scams. Grandparent scam actually is one of the most popular, and just by a quick show of hands, was anyone involved in a grandparent scam? Raise them high, a few, about 3, 5, okay. What about romance scam? You don't have to raise your hand on that. Tech support scam, was anyone affected by a tech? Raise them high because I can't really see. Sir, were you affected by a tech support scam? Yes, over there too? Yes? Okay, so we have maybe 8. And property deed fraud, I really hope no one has been involved in a property deed fraud, but have you? By a show of hands? 0? Good. We'll talk more about that toward the end. So regarding the grandparent scam, folks, scammers exploit the love and the generosity of the grandparents or the relative that's in trouble because they want those relatives to hand over emergency funds. That's the gimmick the fraudsters use to get the money. Your nephew, your niece, your granddaughter, your grandson is in trouble. How do these scammers get that information? Like most of them do from a myriad of crimes, social media. You can go on Facebook, and if someone doesn't have a private account, you can go to, I'll pick a name, Jane Doe's account, see Jane Doe's family, maybe Jane Doe has videos, you play the video and you hear her talk to her grandson Johnny, you hear Johnny's voice. These scammers capture those voices. They get to learn so much about you and your family through those Facebook posts. And then if you're on Instagram and now they have Jane Doe's name and her grandson's Johnny, so now we'll try to see if Johnny Doe has a Facebook account, and they will tie these relationships together very well to the point where the scammer will pretend there's an emergency that arose and money is needed immediately. So they'll call the grandparent in the middle of the night. Ring, ring. Who doesn't pick up the phone at 3 in the morning? We're all scared when we hear a phone ring. Hi, this is the police in Aruba. Your grandson Johnny went here on spring break. He's just been arrested and needs $3,000 by 6 a.m. in the morning so we can release him. What grandparent wouldn't do anything to release their grandchild, okay? So they turn the phone over to someone else to verify it. Maybe it's some supervisor of the police officer. They make it to be a very believable scam. Perhaps the child is heard in the background, not because Johnny went to Aruba overnight, because the scammers cloned that voice, that laugh, those words on those Facebook videos. It happens. So protect yourself, protect your family. I have a short video here. There will be 3 videos. Give it about 5 to 10 seconds for the commercial to pass, and then the video will start. This one is on the grandparent scam.
60 Minutes Overtime.
This week on 60 Minutes, we report on digital scams criminals are using to swindle Americans out of their hard-earned money. The scammers don't discriminate, but seniors lose the most money. They're often targeted in a specific con called the grandparent scam.
They said my grandson had an accident, and to get him out of jail, they need $7,600.
For Judy and Ron Attig, the scam started with a phone call from an imposter pretending to be their grandson in trouble, afraid to tell his parents, but in need of money.
We did ask him, why didn't you call your dad? And, oh my God, he'd be so mad at me or whatever. He said, I'm going to have somebody come and pick up the money.
Were they convincing?
Oh, very. And, yeah, we broke in and they would come.
The scammers sent a courier to the Attigs to pick up the first payment.
Did you want to look at it or not?
No, I can't do it now.
Oh, okay, well then, okay, your name is,
Jessica?
Days later, the greedy con artists called the couple to ask for more money. Alert to the scam, they recorded the conversation.
Yes, hello, Mrs. Attic?
Mrs. Attic, yes?
Yes, hi, ma'am. My name is Daniel Corber. I was the one representing Troy yesterday in the DUI reckless endangerment case with the car accident and the payment that had gone through. And unfortunately, the woman today, she had come in with all the necessary documents that she did need in order to proceed with taking it to a personal injury claim. So that's where we're standing right now, and she finally did settle for $17,000. To my understanding, you had already picked up the cash, and you have it present with you?
Yes, we do.
The Attigs did not hand over any more money and contacted the authorities. Law enforcement was able to break up this crime ring thanks in part to doorbell camera footage of the courier. San Diego County District Attorney Summer Steffen said was the linchpin.
Search warrants then were able to take that trail from the download of her cell phones, the woman who showed up at the door, to connect to several other perpetrators. From that, a connection of the dots happened to crimes all around in multiple regions, bringing down really an organized syndicate that was operating across the United States.
At the moment you realized this is a scam, what was the feeling?
Stupid.
$7,600 hits hard.
Well, that was for our, if we wanted to go on a trip or something. It was terrible. I was a mess.
Very sad and very unfortunate, but this does happen. So we talked earlier about the fraudsters being capable and trained to realistically imitate the voices, and they can do that through inexpensive programs that are out there where they're able to clone these voices. Where there's a will, there's a way. Isn't that saying so true? So when you're a fraudster, you will find a way. And the shame of it is, they're probably very brilliant, and too bad they couldn't use that for a more positive moving forward. How do you protect yourself? Check your privacy settings on your social media accounts. You can make your Facebook account private. If you don't know how, then you can... Perfect timing. If you don't know how to make it private, you could go to a younger person in your family that you trust. I mean, there's always a way. At the very end of it, call the local police department. Hey, is there anyone there that could just tell me how do I make this switch and make my account private instead of public? You can call your grandchild or the family member on a phone number that you know that's theirs if there's an emergency. So if the fraudster says to you at 3 a.m. on a Wednesday, Johnny is in jail in Aruba, and you thought, I never knew Johnny was going to Aruba this week on spring break, call your grandson up at 3 a.m. He'll pick up and verify. Don't hit redial on your phone because it's only going to call the scammer back. And guess what? The scammers know how to spoof the phone numbers. So if Johnny's phone number is 123-456-789, those fraudsters know how to spoof that number, so it comes up the same way. So if you hit redial, you're going back to the fraudster. Hang up and dial the number of the person that you know and love so you can speak to them and verify they're alive, safe, and well, and they were not the ones to call you. If someone claims to be a police officer, call the police department. I am law enforcement. In financial crimes, I call individuals regularly to say, hi, my name is Debbie Bassender. I identify myself. I'm working on an investigation. I got information leading me to you. They don't want to talk any further. And I said, good for you. Don't talk to me, please. Call back Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office. I am the only Debbie that's a detective. Go online, find the number. I won't even give it to you. Go online, find the number, and call. And all of them have called back and said, thank you for doing that. We don't feel safe speaking. But I don't blame them for doing that, and I applaud them. Don't volunteer information. When you get that call from an unknown or unwanted number, and you pick up and they say, is this Jane Doe? I don't even say yes. I change my voice and I say, who is this? Because I don't know if they're trying to clone my voice. 1 out of 10 times it will be a legitimate call. Every other call, they hang up. Don't send cash, don't wire money, don't provide gift cards, don't do any of those methods to make a payment, because that's just not normal to make a payment that way, right? We make a payment by handing someone cash or handing them a check. We don't pay someone in gift cards unless you're giving someone a gift, a legitimate gift that you chose to give them. It should never be requested of you. So going into the next scam that is very prevalent, very common, and I can tell you I've been involved as an investigator at the county in romance scams. I've been involved when I was in banking in romance scams. Banking and law enforcement go hand in hand with most crimes that are financial related. Romance scams. Anyone can go and look at obituaries, whether you are sitting in India, Germany, Uzbekistan, Asbury, Neptune, Monmouth County. And you go to that funeral home and you see that Jane Doe lost John Doe. Then you go on Jane Doe's website and you see all her grandkids and her brothers and her sisters. Read the obituary, it will list all of her next of kin. It's amazing what you can find out. This is all public. Any one of us could do it. And then fraudster Joe starts to contact Jane Doe under the auspice of, I lost my wife. I know you just lost your husband. And these fraudsters will capture the attention of these poor innocent victims, because in that moment, when you're going through such grief, you're happy that someone wants to help. You're happy that someone wants to lend an ear, because by this point, your son or daughter or brother or sister, they've heard your cries of woes for so long, we think, let me talk to someone new who will listen. That's how they get an in. And eventually, it will lead to establishing a relationship quickly because they've garnered your trust. Once you trust someone, that relationship tightens. Then they're going to tell you, I'm working out of state, usually out of the country. Most of my experiences, the fraudster has worked out of the country. You never meet in person. Some excuse always comes up. They're going to fly home tomorrow. They can't because of excuse number 1. They're flying home next month. A day before they can't because of excuse number 2. On and on. They profess their love to you. They eventually ask for small amounts of money, and then the small asks grow to larger asks. Before I start this video, I want to share with you as short of a story as I can tell you on a romance scam. I was new to Monmouth County, and Adult Protective Services in Asbury sent us information on a female in Asbury who they believed was in trouble, possibly a romance scam. They didn't know. Adult Protective Services knew about this because they were doing periodic wellness checks on this woman. This woman was an Asian female. She was well over 60. She and her husband owned a dry cleaning business. Her husband was deceased. She moved in with her son and daughter-in-law. She was contacted online by a romance scam artist. The son and daughter-in-law kind of knew what was going on and told her to stop, and she didn't, and she leaves. She's deaf, and she could not speak. So the computer is her life, as you can imagine. When I got this referral, she was staying at a boarding house in Asbury, and I wish I could give you the street name because you would know. When I went up with another detective in my office, it was inhabited by a lot of drug users, people that were just nefarious in nature. And when I went inside with the other detective to this house with folks just hanging on the steps and seats, and the place was run down, dirty. She lived in a room that was twice the size of this table. Now, she's 5 feet tall. She didn't take a lot of space. Her bed was 2/3 of this table. There was a teapot, and the bathroom she used was across the hall. I'm in law enforcement, and I didn't like going in this house, and this poor woman was living there. The fraudster was still communicating with her. So I'm going to speed this up. I had to write on this pad all my questions. She typed into her phone and it would come up so I could read her response. There were days where I took her out, we picked her up, and I had to take her to Dunkin' Donuts so I could sit and talk with her and say, that person who's calling you is a scam. So her account was drained. They owned a dry cleaning business for decades. She has no money now. She can barely pay her $500 a month rent. She barely had money for food. I explained everything through writing and communicating the way she was able to. Days of meeting with her. I took her to a Section 8 housing apartment complex on the water in Asbury, beautiful. We showed her a room. The landlord knew the whole story. I said, you could afford this. This is how you can do it. That guy is a fraudster. He wants your money. So what he did, all of her funds were gone. There was no savings. She lived on a few $100s that she got from, I believe, Social Security. She was not meeting her monthly expenses as it was in that place she was staying. He wired money to a Walmart. She got the corners to pick up a bus, corner streets in Asbury, pick up a bus. A woman who can't hear, can't speak, would go to the Western Union and Walmart time and time and time again, get the cash. This little petite woman who couldn't scream if they stole her bag, can't hear if someone's running up to hit her with all this cash, would then take the bus to the bank, walk in with folders, and conduct large wire transmittals out of the country. Classic. So it was a romance scam to get her. She ended up being a money mule. I bent over backwards, literally, to show her the light. She refused to believe me. At the end of the day, as sad as this story is, there's only so much we could do. I couldn't remove her from the house. She chose not to change her lifestyle. This was a very difficult decision for all of us on our end to make, but it does happen. So let me show you this video of the romance scam.
Crooks are getting more creative when it comes to getting their hands on your money. CBS 5 is working to make you scam savvy. All today, we are uncovering new tricks that scammers are using.
And tonight we have a scam tied to, well, heartbreak. A Valley woman lost everything, including her life savings, to a man that she thought was her fiancé. As Chief Investigative Reporter Morgan Lowe reports, the Arizona Attorney General is now seeing bigger and more complex romance scams targeting Arizona women and men.
Maria Timbaga Rojo is making dinner at her studio apartment in Mesa.
Just get this to boil.
It's cramped quarters, but it wasn't always like this. In fact, Maria used to own this home, but that was before she met a man named Thomas Morgan, who she calls her fiancé.
I have gone from a 4-bedroom home into a 1-bedroom apartment to a studio apartment, and I work full time.
How she ended up here is a case study in romance scams, how unscrupulous people on the other side of town or the other side of the world con women and men out of tens of thousands of dollars.
This is a very ancient, visceral, sort of, psychological phenomenon.
And it is by no means rare.
We're seeing more of them, and that's unfortunate.
Maria's story began 4 years ago when she met Thomas at a conference in California.
He said, well, I am a jeweler by trade, and I'm here because I am going to be meeting with someone about an assignment that I want to get in Russia.
She says they developed a relationship.
We communicated through the internet and through the phones.
Thomas then claimed he ran into legal trouble overseas, and Maria started sending money. He was framed, he needed a lawyer, he needed to pay bribes. Wire transfer receipts show Maria sent tens of thousands of dollars. When she contacted us, she still believed Thomas and her relationship were real. How much money have you spent so far helping him out?
Close to $67,000.
Over like 3 years.
Over 30 years, yes.
$67,000. And you don't think you're being scammed?
I don't. I really don't, because I don't feel it. I feel he's an honest man. He cried when he was in jail.
She still believed him, and the true price she had paid was actually much greater. How do these con artists hook their victims?
Part of it is preying on vulnerabilities.
Athena Actipus is an assistant professor of psychology at ASU. She says it starts with the same feeling of having a crush, then gets more extreme.
There's this phenomenon in psychology too, which is, if you have already said yes to someone, you're more likely to say yes again. It doesn't start with, I need $100,000. It's after you've said yes many times.
$1,985.
It took us several meetings with Maria to find out how much she really sent to Thomas. $200,000.
Bitcoin? I don't understand what that is. I don't do Bitcoin.
Through wire transfers to middlemen across the U.S., people she thought were working for a lawyer who was trying to get Thomas out of jail in Russia, and she still did not fully believe she was being conned. At this point, you're not ready to say that it is a scam.
Not yet. He didn't look like the type of caliber of person that would scam somebody. Not by the way he talked, not by the fact that he's very religious.
Are these just single people ripping off Americans, or are these complex organized crime rings?
Well, we've seen a mixture.
Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich has prosecuted romance scammers. He says it's a growing problem, and these cases are very tough to crack.
Organized crime, organized gangs in other countries know that this is sometimes a very easy path to money, and that because they're in foreign countries, it's hard to extradite them, it's hard to investigate them.
After speaking to Maria for 2 months, we convinced her to go to the Attorney General. By now, she seemed to realize she had been had, and that there was very little chance she would recover any of her money.
Well, the only thing I have left them is to go to the FBI and let them know what happened, because I've got all the documentation of the monies that was sent. We were supposed to have gotten married after the contract was done in Russia. We had our plans and everything, and it all fell through.
You weren't supposed to be living in a studio apartment.
No.
So So Maria actually met this man in person at first, and that makes this a little different and a newer form of the classic romance scam.
Boy, what a journey to even get her to realize that she was getting scammed, and she really deserves a lot of credit for talking about this because this is so heartbreaking, but it may help other people not.
It's incredible, and it happens. Going back to my female in Asbury Park, I wanted to add two things. One, her son did try reaching out to her to come back. She wanted nothing to do with her son and daughter-in-law anymore. She was so hooked into this romance, much like this woman up here. They believe everything. Two, when we went to the bank, I spoke with bank personnel. I went in with the woman. And I explained what happened. And I said, I just have a question. How could you let or allow this woman who you know can't speak, can't hear, she comes in with folders with all this cash. How could you allow this to happen without question? Coming from banking, I also know it's well within their purview to say or communicate. If I could communicate with her, anyone could, right? Just write it, she can read. They really had no response. And that's really sad that no one else picked up on it. Sad with all of them. Tech support, phishing scams. This happens all the time on a lot of our computers. When I say tech support and phishing scams, how many of us have a laptop at home? Keep your hand up. It's good exercise today. Or a desktop, or an iPad. Okay. Recall, you get those little pop-up from perhaps McAfee or another software protection system. That's an example. Any of those tech support that are popping up, you buy a printer from Hewlett-Packard and you get protection on the printer, and the next thing you know, you're getting pop-up Hewlett-Packard pop-ups, okay? That doesn't mean they're legitimate at all. So when we talk about tech support and phishing scams, this is exactly where we're at. The scammer claims to be a computer technician from a well-known company. We all know HP products. We've all heard of McAfee on the computers. It begins with a phone call or a pop-up on your computer that something needs to be fixed, or your contract expired, you need to renew. How many of us recall the date when you signed up for the legitimate software fraud protection, that you're on your year renewal? So if they came to you 10 months early, would you know that in your head, oh, I guess I do have to renew, right? I mean, they know exactly what to do and when to do it. They claim they find viruses or malware on your computer. They want remote access, and the goal is to gain access to your computer so they can get into your personal information. No one needs personal access to your computer. No one needs for you to give them the passwords to your computer. Like that. Legitimate tech support, again, they will not ask for access to your computer out of the blue. Pop-up warnings from your legitimate tech companies will not ask you to call a number or to click on a link. So this is an example of one of those pop-ups or an email, and you click on it and you open it up, and it says, "Dear user, your subscription with Geek Squad will renew today, and $349.99 is about to be debited from your account today. The debit amount will be reflected within the next 24. That's all it says. In case of any further clarifications or block the auto renewal service, please reach out to Customer Help Center." Then they have what appears to be customer ID, invoice number, a description, the subtotal, the total, If you didn't authorize this charge, you have 24 hours, period, to cancel and get an instant refund of your annual subscription. Please contact our customer care at +1-888, and then the rest of the number, no period. When you look at this letter, and you don't know how far back you can see the particulars of it, but when you really look at it, a lot of those scammers are out of the country. And in other countries, they don't always speak grammatically the way we would in the United States or speaking English. And their punctuation is also, can be, different. So when you really look at this and you see "Dear user," there's a space and then a comma. Best Buy wouldn't send out an email like that, most likely. Your subscription is with a capital S, just stands out to me, no need to be capitalized. With Geek Squad, all uppercase, okay, will renew today is uppercase. Is about to be debited is uppercase from your account by today. They have to say today, because the real Best Buy would give you a date. So they have to say today, because they don't know when your date is really up for renewal. As you look through this, coming down here to the phone number, +1, when you call out of the country, it typically is +1 and then a lot of digits after that. In the United States, when you get your credit card bills, you get legitimate emails, they normally would not reflect the telephone number in the manner of this email. So there are so many instances on here. If we went line by line and letter by letter, when you add it all up and you say, grammatically, that's not the way it would be written here. That's not the way someone would speak to me like that. But if you've ever gotten those scam calls and you can identify the voice being out of the country, sometimes they just speak a little different, correct? Okay. Short example. I was at work at Monmouth County one day and my cell phone rang. And it said, Internal Revenue Service. Well, you know my background, and I was having a cranky pants day. So I said, I'm gonna pick this up. I think it's a scam. In fact, I took my phone over to my colleague in his cubicle and I said, I'm gonna have fun with this one. He had no idea what I was referring to. So I put it on speaker. And it was an Indian voice, and the male said that he was from the IRS and I owed money and he needed all my personal information. I said, oh, this is great, please, I want to settle this as fast as I can. I'll send you the money right away. So naturally he goes through, what's your first name? And I said, Ima. Can you spell that? Now remember, I can't do his accent as well as he could. So I said, sure, I-M-A. He says, thank you. Can you give me your last name? I said, sure, Detective. He's honest to goodness true. He said, can you spell that? I said, absolutely. D-E-T-E-C-T-I-V-E, apostrophe, Detective. He goes, can you say that all together? I said, I'm a detective. And he hung up. One for law enforcement, okay. So what do you do if you fall victim to a tech support or a phishing scam? Contact the affected financial institutions. Whoever you're banking with, let them know immediately. Hold on to, collect, save any text messages or emails. Save it in case you need it, in case law enforcement needs it. In case banking needs it, maybe they can reimburse. I am not promising, but you save all of this because whether it's financial institution or law enforcement, they're going to need it for one reason or the other. Collect any addresses or accounts where the money was instructed to be sent on their part, because they're going to want payment and they're going to direct you where to send it, and it's always going to be to an illegitimate account that has nothing to do with the actual legitimate purpose. If you believe you are a victim, report the incident to your local police department. Phishing scam prevention methods. Do you all know phishing? We all know phishing. Take the pole, throw it out, hope you catch a fish. Same thing with a phishing scam. They're going to throw that illegitimate verbal or email or text bait out, hoping they can catch someone that's not smart enough to know any better. So that's why you're here today, because you're going to learn so much more when you leave here of methods to prevent you from becoming a victim. And should you become a victim, then you have Asbury, Neptune, and the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office to help you. Okay. Phishing scam prevention methods. Regularly back up your computer to an external hard drive. Have a quality antivirus and malware scanning software, and save the date somewhere so you know when that software is going to expire. That way you don't fall victim to a fraudster trying to get you to renew that in a fraudulent manner. Do not click on attachments or links in your emails from a stranger. And if it looks like it came from your bank, just go to your bank, or you could call them up. Sometimes you go on the website to a lot of banks. I've seen this. I personally bank at Ocean First. I would call them a local community bank. There's some smaller banks, same level. They're very good at putting on their website, if your customers, if you're getting an email asking X, it was not us. This is a fraud. Don't do. If you're at some of the bigger financial institutions, you know, your JP, your Wells, they may or may not do that. I don't know, because I don't bank with them. I don't see. But sometimes they're so big, they just know, like, we're going to get so much fraud anyway, we just don't put that type of information up. So call your bank. Everyone has a person at their bank, whether it's the manager you know or an employee there. Call them to verify. Don't click on links on the email, and do not put your ID up to the camera. Everyone knows the center of your device, that little hole and dot, that is a camera. So if fraudsters are communicating with you and they're asking you for your ID, and they said, oh, you know what, just make it easy, just show me a copy of your driver's license. Well, you think you're just showing it. They can take a photo of that on your camera. So just be careful. Telemarketing or text message scams. Obviously, they occur when the scammer sends out fake text to lure you into sharing your personal information. Has that ever happened to anyone? An example, purchased wine from California. It was one of the few wineries that can ship to New Jersey, but it was being shipped to New Jersey. I then get a text that we have to hold your shipment unless you redirect the location and the time of your shipment. The text message came from UPS. They purported to be from UPS. And I'm in the business, and I have to tell you, it looked real. It looked really real. So if it can resonate with law enforcement who does this work day in and day out, then I can so see how when you're not in this line of work, you would think in, you know, your busy life, you got your whole agenda for today, you're going to have breakfast, you're coming to a meeting, you get this text, oh sure, you want me to hold my shipment till I get home from today's meeting? I'll click on here, and then they got you. So just be wary. Better to be safe than sorry. Spam text might prompt you to click on a link that leads to a spoofed or malicious website. Had I clicked on that link, that's what would have happened. Okay? Always be leery. Then they want you to enter your login information or create an account. Then they have that password. Then they can try to go in other accounts you have and see if that password works in other accounts. How many times are we all hearing from law enforcement, from banking, from any fraud prevention, change your passwords, have different passwords? But the reality of life is everyone's busy. At this point in life, there's so much information up here. How many passwords can we remember? So we tend to hold on to the same 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. We don't have 30. And if that one is on your bank account or a credit card account, then they're going to get access. Okay? Just be careful. Okay. Telemarketing or text scam.
Getting random text messages from unknown senders. Do they promise big bucks if you click on the link? Trust me, don't do it. Consumer reporter John Matteries found out it's probably a scam.
Bruce McGee checked his phone the other day to discover a worrisome text message.
It was a text that said that my Bosch dishwasher would be charged to my account. I didn't order a dishwasher.
A $1,500 dishwasher. He thought it might be a scam, but opened the text anyway.
In particular, I had to open because it specifically mentioned an item, and I wanted to make sure that it wasn't, erroneous.
So he decided to contact us to see if other people were receiving similar texts. But moments later,
as I was composing my email to you, I received another email from a bank with whom I do not do business.
It said, due to an unusual transaction, we have blocked your debit.
So is the first text message real? What about the second one? Well, it turns out they were both scams to steal his bank account information and possibly his identity.
No, the scammers do not discriminate. They will send this to anybody, and anybody that will respond.
Sarah Wetzel is with the Better Business Bureau. She says scammers are using text messages to impersonate businesses as well as government agencies to lure consumers into giving up personal information to steal their identity or their hard-earned money. She says there are some ways to protect yourself. Check for grammatical errors or a phrase that doesn't make sense. Do your research. Look up the number online to see if it's a legitimate business. And never click on a link from an unknown number. Sarah says replies allow the scammer to know it's an active phone. And at the end of the day, she says just let that text message go, and when in doubt, throw it out. That way you don't waste your money. I'm John Matarese.
Has anyone experienced a scam like that? Yes? Several. Wow. About 12 of you. Okay. Examples. Telemarketing or text message scam. You have the copycat bank fraud prevention alerts, where the scammers pretend to be the major bank notifying you about a suspicious transaction and reply to the above and approve the transaction. Every time you reply, it prompts the scammer to call and ask you for personal information. Or you have the free gift, reward, or prize. Anyone receive any of those on their phone? A text? Yep, very prevalent. Fake delivery problems, which was the one I gave you an example of with the wine. Yep. Fake job offers. Anyone getting job offer texts? Yes, lots of them. It's all over. You can't be too careful. So now I would like to move into an area, folks, where this property fraud is on the rise. Fraudulent transfer of deed. By a show of hands, who owns a home or property? Okay. Almost the entire room. So it affects really all of us. And if you don't, there's someone you love that does. In September, there was a female that went to the Monmouth County Clerk's office numerous times, submitting forms to transfer property from its existing owner, which was a bank, and the bank was acting as a trustee for the trust, and obviously individuals once owned it, now it's a trust. She's trying to transfer this residential home in Monmouth County valued at $1.5 million to her. And she put it in, we'll call her Jane Doe, in the Jane Doe Trust. Because she went there numerous times and she kept going because there was always something wrong with the property deed transfer form. You fill out the forms, and then you have required legal documents that you have to attach to that to submit. The required legal documents, she got all public searches online, any one of us could. And the form was constantly rejected, legitimately rejected by the clerk's office because there was always a mistake on it. A private citizen is not allowed to go to any clerk's office in the state of New Jersey and say, I'm filling this out wrong, help me to fill it out right. The clerk's office is not at liberty to instruct anyone on how to do it right. They are to receive an accurate and properly filled out form. So the clerk's office was just taking it in, noticing something was wrong, and sending it back. One of the red flags to the clerk's office was when they mailed the forms back at one point to say it's not properly filled out, those forms were returned to the clerk's office because the address on the forms was not correct. Jane Doe listed she lived at 123 New Street in Bergen County. It was sent back for no apartment number. So the clerk's office, as we all would, that's weird, that's gotta be her address, let me look it up. 123 New Street is a strip mall. And guess what's in that strip mall? UPS. So Jane Doe comes back to the clerk's office and says, why is this being kicked back again? They said, well, your address is wrong. You're missing the apartment address. And when Jane Doe puts the apartment address down, it comes back to UPS. So now they have an individual who has submitted this form inaccurate about 5 times. The home address is a UPS box, drop box, in Bergen County. I now look into this. And I thought, this is very interesting. The first thing I did was call the police department of the town that the house was actually located in. And I said, hi, Sergeant. I identified myself from the prosecutor's office. Said, I just got this to look into. This is what's been going on. Have you had any calls on 123 Street? He says, oh my gosh, I am glad you called. We've had numerous calls on this address, but we never knew who the victim was. I said, well, what type of calls have you received? He said, well, the first call was from a realtor who took a client to the house because it was listed on MLS for sale. The realtor obviously has access to get in the house and show a client. And Jane Doe and her 20-something-year-old daughter were standing in the kitchen saying, what are you doing here? We live here. So the realtor left. The client now wants nothing to do with the realtor. And the realtor reported this to the police department. Then neighbors on the street were calling the police department saying, those doors were locked. Now we see cars in the driveway. And it looks like they may be living there. This was in September of 24. We had a very warm fall, if you recall. And there was a week, I believe in October, where it went from really warm, like windows open, maybe air conditioned, to like put the heat on. So I then now am working with the detective at this town, and I said, could you please do me a favor? Have your night patrol, because it's getting cold, have your night patrol go past this house. They've got to have heat on, lights. How are you existing in this mansion, 7-bedroom mansion of a house with no heat and electric? Well, the furnace was blowing, every light on in the house, so fully this person has now fully lived in this house. Squatter, thank you. Does everyone know what a squatter is? Okay. Yes. That's exactly what happened. So, now we've contacted all the utility companies to say, has anyone come here to try to get the power or the electric, etc., turned on? Every one of them, oh yes, and they, without us even prompting, everyone gave up Jane Doe, without us even saying, is it Jane Doe? And she's telling everyone, I own a house, I'll show you the deed, it's coming, on and on and on. So what happened was, very quickly after that, probably within 48 hours, we charged her with theft by deception of the $1.5 million home and fraudulent documents, because that was the document she was submitting to the clerk's office. I know, and if she had filled them out correctly, it would have gone through. If anyone filled them out correctly. So I tell this story when I speak on this topic, and these are the questions I get. Well, if she's trying to gain access to that house, how come no one would stop her? You know, the clerk's office does what they do best. They're not law enforcement, so they're not the ones that would stop her. When it came to us, we definitely stopped her. Years ago, it was your title companies and attorneys that did this paperwork. And oftentimes it was electronically done. And so everything submitted to the clerk's office back then was accurate. Now, you have a lot of individuals doing this. Not to say every individual has ill intent. They don't. But it opens up the opportunity for the individuals with ill intent to fraudulently transfer this deed. So, although she is now charged, I then went and got her bank account information. She supplied a check to the clerk's office. We have the ability to then, you know, with legal process and means, legally get her bank records. And you can see how she was in Bergen County. You can see all of the fast food she was buying. I don't know where she was living. I couldn't tell by a bank statement. Then you start to see the storage sheds rented in an area between Bergen County and our office. You see her making payments to moving truck companies. You then see, I know, she's now in that house. You then see all her food being purchased at food stores and restaurants in and around where she's living. So this was meticulously planned out. The day she was arrested, she was in the house, her Porsche was in the driveway, her daughter was there, her son was there, and her mom, 80-something years old. All of them had to leave, and they were told, if you come back in this house again, you'll be arrested for trespassing. So that has not happened. That is what is going on with deed fraud. So up on the table, folks, on that table, you're going to see a card. Because the next question I get from my audience is, oh my gosh, what can I do to protect myself? Okay? The card looks like this up front. You're all in Monmouth County. This relates to Monmouth County. If you have friends or anyone in Ocean County, they can go on the Ocean County Clerk's Office website. This is Monmouth County Clerk's website. On this card, there is a QR code. You can scan it, and you can get to the website on how to register your home. I've registered my home, I've registered my mother's home, and I've told everyone I like, love, or just bump into, you own property, this is what you need to do. So when you go to the clerk's office, you're most likely going to need to know your lot and block, and they're going to ask you for your name, obviously. If any paperwork is filed at the clerk's office with your lot and block, and you get the opportunity to list names, so if you own it, your husband owns it, or you and your son, or whomever, you can list maybe 3 or 4 names, emails, etc. If anything comes in with those identifiers, the clerk's office will notify you. And I urge you to do that. You don't have to do it like the second you leave here, but do it 2 seconds after you leave here, okay? The other thing you can do is this. I have a current case, and I'll just leave it at this, that the poor victim called me up and said, I just got an email today from Zillow thanking me for listing my property. He lives in New York. His property is in our county. It's a vacant parcel of land valued at close to $2 million. All done by a fraudster. Now, I'm telling you this because had he not registered with Zillow or Realtor.com, you can do both. It's called Claim My Property. you can go on those websites and claim your property that your name is attached to 123 New Street, Asbury, New Jersey. If a listing comes up with that address, you're going to get that thank you email from Zillow, and that's how you will know your property was listed. Now, if you genuinely listed it, then you're like, great, I just listed it with Coldwell Banker. That's great. But we all know when we did not list our house. So if you get that email, that is a second level of protection for you. Okay? So there's two instances that I wanted to describe case-wise. Deed fraud, it's the recording of a deed in a fraudulent manner without the victim's knowledge or consent. No one gave Jane Doe consent to gain access into a house with a lockbox where utilities were turned off and no one was in it. Yes, it is a squatter, but she was doing that because she knew she was trying to transfer the deed. Typically, it involves a second home, a rental unit, vacant home, or vacant lots. You know, why it involves a vacant home? Because then a squatter, it's easy for a squatter to gain access if the home is vacant. So if you leave New Jersey in the winter months for 2 or 3 months, please have someone check on your property. Obviously, do all the locks. Obviously, have a Ring doorbell or something that would alert you if someone is at your front door or even trying to get in your house. Just all preventative measures. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm letting you know because this is real. Everything I spoke about earlier in this program, we've all been hearing for years now, right? But you don't get to hear a lot about deed fraud as much because that trend is really, while it's been around, it's really more up and coming now. Scammers use fraudulent identification, forge notary signatures, or work with unscrupulous notaries. In that vacant property that went up for sale, that fake John Doe, like the real John Doe is the victim, so the fake John Doe sent the realtor driver's license. Everything's fake about it. The realtor doesn't know if it's me or you on that license. They just say a female name, right? They're going to take, I hope, the date of birth into consideration, but it went through on this poor victim that I'm working with now. So this is a copy of the card. This is the front and back. However, if you just want to go on the website, Monmouth County Clerk's Office website, over here to your far right, that is the bottom of the website, and you need to click on Property Fraud Alert, and it will take you step by step on how to do it. It is not hard, it is not a lot of time, it takes about 5 minutes if that, but that's how you would find it. So what do you do if you are a suspect or you suspect you are a victim of a fraud? Immediately report it to the police. In Monmouth County, generally, our crimes are $75,000 or higher is reported to the prosecutor's office. Any victim loss under $75,000 is generally reported to your police department, local police department first. Notify your bank if a financial institution is involved. Do not rely on the phone numbers or the email addresses in the email, the phone number that they called you. Independently call back. Independently get an email address if need be. The Federal Trade Commission, FTC, phenomenal website, provides you with a plethora, a myriad of information on frauds. Much of it I have up there on the table. So if you didn't get the opportunity to get any literature, folks, please grab some on your way out. And you can also place a freeze on your credit report. And how do we do that? Up there on the table, I made a copy of this. Look for the flyer in royal blue. Or you can take your phone out and take a photo of it. These are the 3 credit companies: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. There's the 800 number. There is the website to go there to put a credit freeze on your credit if you feel that you've been victimized. Another question I get always when I do these presentations is, Debbie, I can't stand, my phone rings, my cell phone, my house phone, what do I do to stop these calls? Well, you can register for the Do Not Call registry. That's a scammer right now. You gotta hurry up. So how do you register for this? You go to the website donotcall.gov and put your phone number in. It walks you through it. It is very easy to follow the prompts. And in 2 to 3 days, it's up there. This says up to 31 days. When I registered mine, it was done in 24 hours. Yes, it did reduce my calls greatly, but guess what? You know, the new scammers, after that, you're gonna be on some list. So maybe you do this like every 6 months or every year, just to refresh it, because your number is always gonna be on some new scam list. So absolutely, I highly recommend this. I've done it for my mother, and if I've done it for my mother, I would do it for all of you. That's why I'm recommending you do this. Again, the flyer is up there. Organizations that work to end elder financial abuse. You have your Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You have FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center, Adult Protective Services in each of your respective towns. Federally, you have the Department of Justice, Elder Justice Initiative, and I have all the websites here if you ever needed to check anything out. Association of Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialists, FTC, New Jersey Attorney General's Office, your local prosecutor's office, and your local Asbury and Neptune Police Department. We've given you a lot of information today, and you've been an outstanding audience. Do you have any questions of us? Yes, Randy?
So, starting on Monday the 31st, approximately 70 million seniors nationwide are going to be asked to verify their information on Social Security. And the play is...
Randy, you have very important information. Would you say it on a mic, please? I'd like them, and for our viewers on their laptops and desktop, to hear what you have to say. And while he's making his way, Randy's going to speak and provide this information. We will conclude, and offline, I will gladly handle and accept all of us, any questions you may have. So, Randy, the floor is yours.
So you may have heard in the news on Monday, the 31st, there will be a push for verification of Social Security information. And it deals with if you are banking, if you have direct deposit. Now, it is determined it will be about 70 to 80 million seniors will have to do this. You will either have to do it online or you will have to do it in person at a Social Security office. My fear is, for myself and everybody around, that this kind of fear that I'm going to lose my Social Security or I'm going to lose my Medicare is the exact thing that scammers want to hear. Because now you're going to start getting phishing scams that say it's the Social Security Administration. In order to verify, just click this link and tell me your name, your Social Security number, and your banking information. You're going to get phone calls. So we need to know how we don't fall victim to that. And it's a little more difficult because now Social Security is so backed up with telephone calls. For Neptune, we're going to actually teach my staff, and we're going to learn how to help you walk through going onto My Social Security. If you have an account that you have used and the account was created in the last 3 years, you should be fine, but you can log onto your account and then create a new login Gov ID, which will verify it. If not, you may need to go to an office or come and ask, and I know, Karen, you'll do the same. Come and ask how we can check, but never, please never click on Social Security because they're going to make it look really good, and never ever answer a phone call with somebody saying, I'm calling you from Social Security. To be honest, right now, they can't even answer the calls coming in, so they surely are not going to be calling you. And just be careful, because once it's done, it's going to be really, really hard to unravel. And again, this starts on Monday, March 31st.
Thank you very much, Randy. Give Randy a good round of applause. Thank you all for being an incredible audience. We so appreciate Randy opening up the Senior Center so we could provide this valuable information to all of you. Thank you, Neptune Police Department, Asbury Park Police Department, Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office. Have a great day. Thank you.